delivering the information, you are being judged on some of these elements, the pathos, the ethos, and the logos. But using simple statements, obviously reading from a script is not a good idea, but using palm cards tries to reduce that by having them there as to help with memory and to help with things that you know are not as effective, like speaking too quickly or not pausing, or could be a word you struggle to pronounce or to remember. Using some dot points, there's no rule about how many, but it's important that you don't have huge chunks. A palm card that is a chunk, it's a paragraph. You're going to have to do that. Certainly me with my poor sight. Visual aids are very powerful, and we don't often get an opportunity to use them in assessment, so it is good to think about them. They engage the right brain function. They are effectively stimulating creativity. They can be overused too. Has anyone seen some beautiful PowerPoints where you almost don't pay any attention to what's said because there's so many beautiful visuals to engage with? So you have to think about that as well. They are often memorable. We tend to remember visuals. I am a visual learner. Have you thought about your audience? How we learn? PowerPoint slides, the rule that I've already broken several times, but this is the general rule, 7 items. That's a suggestion, and that probably is going to change over time, I'm sure. 7 items of information. And skipping through PowerPoints too quickly is also something to watch. But they are in your criteria, so it is worth considering. What else would be visuals besides PowerPoints out of interest? Have you considered the full range? Even old-fashioned things like, what's this? Whiteboard. Back in the day, it used to be a chalkboard. What's the problem of using the whiteboard? It's good, but you have to think about it.
It can be messy.
It can be. It needs to be planned. What else does it do? What happens?
To the audience.
Yes, you turn your back, which is okay, but you have to think about managing that. I've also seen students who just then sort of hover up here and don't use the floor space. Having tables like this doesn't help, so you'd want to think about that too. But actually standing behind a table. Now that can be necessary if you have a very nervous presenter, that's probably better, and they put their hands on the table and it just can help with fidgeting but if you are a little more confident, using the floor space is going to engage as well. And sitting back here, like in the corner, hiding in the corner. If you're not presenting, that's okay, but thinking about those elements. And walking around can actually help with thinking as well and memory. But thinking about anxiety as well, and I think until you practice with each other, you will find that everyone's different. Other visuals, I was just thinking of handouts. Has anyone considered using handouts? Yeah. Great. Posters. You'd need to prepare, set them up, but they can be powerful. Okay, there's props as well. There's more, but costume in itself becomes a visual. The little slide on anxiety. Now, one thing that, and I'm going to just wander off for this because one thing that was recommended by, that the value of a water bottle, it's like being called something like a dummy. I use it because as teachers, we're actually trained if you want to have a career that's long and fruitful, you actually really need to protect your throat by lubricating and drinking water all the time. But it is like a bit of a dummy as well, and it can be quite a useful prop if you are quite anxious. So it's sort of and it helps with what's the terminology when you get quite anxious and nervous and your throat becomes really dry. So always have some water nearby. Have a go-to person in the audience. Now you are up the front, are you? Or you're going to sit in the audience? There's no particular rule, I suppose, about that. But generally your group will be with you here. So you don't want to keep looking at them. But you might have someone in the audience that is your go-to person. Usually someone who smiles and because to do a good job. And people will. They're the relationships you've created, empathetic as well. Not someone falling asleep, maybe. It's you. And there might be someone who worked for 24-hour shifts in the magazines. So these are good little techniques. Hand gestures. Just thinking about those. Particularly if you have a member who is anxious. Because anxiety is good, but you're managing it. We all have it. It's necessary. It's actually a necessary part of presenting as well. So some other comments on this. Confidence adds energy to a presentation. You've already mentioned that. Recognise you are being self-conscious. The solution is your ability and looking for that support. Obviously, practice will help as well.